Okay, so 10,000 gecs. We have multiplied the last album by 10 to get 10,000 gecs from 1,000. And we have multiplied the 100 gecs from the group's name times 100 as well to get 10,000 gecs. And this is their sophomore album, and I wanted to talk about this album and appreciate the inventors of music and one of the albums of all time being this album. And this is different from my usual format of reviews because the record label of 100 gecs does not want their music reviewed or used for review purposes, so I will talk about it in this fashion because of that. But the album overall, the album starts with Dumbest Girl Alive, which is a really great track from them also because it starts with that THX sound effect at the beginning and you're like, oh my gosh, they really did that. And that was something that I really enjoyed, and I thought that the rock vibes of the production and singing was very good, and I think is a high point for Laura and Dylan, and I think that that is something they can capitalize on for future works, and I hope that we get a proper rock album from them, but also mixing in their electronic music that they are also known for, and their crazy electronic productions in general. But it continues on that note with 757 with really good electronic and rock elements, as well as Hollywood Baby. And something that they utilize well in this album is familiar sounds. So, as I mentioned before, the THX sound effect, and also there were some electronic sound bits that sounded like Mr. Game & Watch, if you're familiar with that character from either the original series they're from or from Smash Bros, of course, is where I know the character from. But there was also a moment in this album that had a sound effect of like a TIE fighter using its like primary guns, and I thought that was pretty cool. I can't recall what the song is right now. I'll have to take a look through it to find that detail, but that was pretty cool. But I think that the next two tracks in the album, being Frog on the Floor and Doritos and Fritos, were pretty skippable, and I think that they could have been cut out. However, with Doritos and Fritos, I will say that it could be reworked in such a way that it cuts out some parts, but it has parts that are usable, I will say. So it's not like a complete misfire, but as is, it is a skip for me. And Billy Knows Jamie is another rock type song, but it's also kind of like hip hop in a way, in its hype and energy, I'd say. Like, rock is also very energetic, but it has that like freestyle-esque, and like you can dance to it, I guess, and like specifically like breakdance, I'd say, to Billy Knows Jamie. And track number 7, $1 million, that is certainly one of the songs of all time. It is certainly music, and I am so happy they included it on this track list, but it is such a skip. Why was it included on this album? I do not know. Somebody please tell me. But I think that the Most Wanted Person in the United States, track 8, is one that is also kind of mid. It had some redeemable bits to it, but like the storyline being one that was interesting, but sonically it wasn't too enticing. However, we get to the last two tracks on the album, and I Got My Tooth Removed was it was funny and memey like some of the past records we've gotten from 100 gecs, but so it kept that same kind of flair, but it also had a funny storyline that the previous track had, but it was also very like sonically like upbeat and fun, even in its like more like melancholy and sadder parts. It's juxtaposed really well with how it changes really fast, and we get back to that sort of upbeat style from them. But Me 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 is certainly the best song on this album, and that's reflected in its streams. Like, it's skewed because it was released as a single, of course, but it's definitely one that will stick, and especially because it's very catchy with its repetition and its production and just how fun it is. And I'll say that overall I will give this album a light 7 out of 10 because although it had quite a number of enjoyable tracks, it also had a few skips and ones that were not enjoyable. And I might even say like a 6 to a 7 because of that, if I'm being honest. And I am being honest. But yeah, that is 10,000 gecs. Let me know what tracks you liked. Let me know if you would play I Got My Tooth Removed to a dental professional that you know, because I know I would. Yeah, let me know what tracks you didn't like. What would you rate this album? Would it be different from what I did? And yeah, maybe I'll see you next time, maybe I won't. Goodbye.